Time NBA team owners were some of the first people to pledge support for their arena workers as the coronavirus hit U.S. shores. Now, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban says if companies are bailed out, all employees should have the chance to benefit from a possible turnaround in the form of stock compensation. Mark Cuban joins us now on the phone. Good morning to you, Mark.
Good morning.
We've been through these bailouts before, and there have been a lot of political finger pointing afterwards. You have a thought about how this should be done?
Yeah, we already know what's going to happen. You know, a year after this, plays out, and it will, we'll look back and say, why didn't we, consider the workers, the everyday hourly worker, the people, making minimum wage? Why didn't we reward them as well? And so let's get ahead of it. And whatever we do in a bailout, make sure that every worker gets compensated and is treated equally, and that the executives don't get rewarded extra to stick around because they got nowhere else to go. The government's taking their risk out of the equation. Let's treat all workers equally.
So, but how would we do that? Because one of the things that, look, there's going to be all sorts of stimulus plans, bailouts, and the like. And one of the things you want to do is get that money into the system as quickly as possible. You don't want people not to take the money. And so the more strings that you attach to it, and I'm not suggesting you don't, but the more that you do, the more likely it is that certain people may hold back. And so I'm trying to figure out how to capture that balance.
Okay. Two different things. One, getting money into the system is a function of the Fed, and they're obviously taking those steps right now. Two is when there's a bailout. When there's a bailout and the government comes in and offers assistance to an organization or public company in particular, whether it's an airline, whatever it may be, there are most likely going to be steps taken by the company, and historically this is what has taken place, where they reward the executives. Mm-hmm. They reprice their options. They give them more stock. They give them warrants. They give them options, whatever it may be. Whatever it is that a company does for their executives, they should be required to proportionally do the same thing for everyone else that works for the company. Period. End of story. Part one. Part two, no buybacks. Not now. Not a year from now, not 20 years from now, not ever, because effectively you're spending taxpayer money to buy back stock, and to me, that's just the wrong way to do that.
Do you think that we're going to have a national bailout for companies across the board? Do you think we should look to airlines or other specific industries for help? I mean, that we should be helping? How would you approach it?
I think we have to. I mean, look, this is cascading, and it's getting worse by the minute. The number of layoffs is just skyrocketing. And so if I walked in the door, the first thing I would do is prioritize. And I would create effectively, and this isn't the right word, but effectively create two buckets. Bucket number one, and we have to do these things in parallel. Bucket number one is how do you help companies of all sizes to keep paying their employees and not lay them off or fire them? Because we want to keep people employed, even if it's make good work, even if this is the Tennessee Valley Authority all over again, and we're just subsidizing companies to keep their employees on the payroll and finding things for them to do. Because keeping them in the payroll, it will pay off more in terms of minimizing taxpayer requirements than releasing them or fire them or laying them off and them having to go find jobs in the future. So that's bucket number one. Do all you can to keep people employed. Bucket number two, we've already seen significant layoffs. There are people who are already unemployed. That's where we might consider helping people, whereas if you're going on to unemployment or any type of government, federal government assistance, then maybe we pay them a bonus, and that's not a good word for this, but give them a check for the $1,000 to help them get through the immediate need because they've just been laid off or they don't have a job. And that helps people get through these problem times. But they should be just two very distinct buckets. But the priority has got to be working to keep working to help people stay employed. I actually don't like the idea of just giving everybody a $1,000 check, because for a lot of small businesses, if they know that their employees are going to get a check and that business is struggling, they might say, you know what, I'm going to lay them off or fire them because I know they have a backstop of some sort. And when this is hopefully all over in 3 or 4 months, like people are predicting, we'll figure it out then. That creates a far greater stress on the system. So I really think that the priority needs to be, one, keep people employed, And two, those who have lost their job, we've seen the entertainment industry, we've seen the hospitality industry, the airline industry, the transportation industry is all decimated. And where there have been layoffs, I don't have a problem with those people who, as they get onto federal assistance, giving them a check up front to help support them and the economy. But we've got to deal with both. And I think the priority needs to be on helping people keep their jobs.
Okay. Mark, hang on for a second. I want to see if we can bring Joe into the conversation.
Sure.
Joe, you there?
Sure. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mark, how are you? It just nobody likes any of this stuff. But I mean, all bets are off, aren't they? I mean, these are. I just don't. Anytime we think, we don't want to do this, I mean, do we need to talk about moral hazard when you're talking about a deadly virus? I don't know. It seems like any other time I understand, but go ahead.
I agree, Joe. Perfection is the enemy of progress. In normal times, you want to look at all the distribution of outcomes and try to do the best thing that helps the most number of people. But this is a new world, literally. This is the new normal, and we have to just look at what's in front of us and deal with it. And yes, there's going to be people who scam the system, but you can't hurt the people who need it and risk supporting the economy and what the tragic things that could happen there because you're trying to avoid some people scamming the system. But you do bring up a good point in terms of moral hazard. What we can do is increase the penalties. And so, when we went through the financial crisis, people talk about how no one went to jail. Well, as part of all of this, whether it's a bailout, whether it's $1,000 check for those who have lost their jobs, we should add, if you try to scam the system in any way, shape, or form, there is jail as your penalty because we want to introduce a moral hazard. I'm not talking about, something ridiculously draconian, but still, there should be something. It shouldn't be a civil issue. It should be fully a criminal issue, and everybody should know that going in.
Okay. Yeah, and Mark, I just, if we have to decide what kind of snapback we're going to get when we do get through this, and I pray that it's sooner rather than later. How psyched are you going to be to sit on the side? I mean, did you appreciate it enough when you're sitting there? I'm jonesing on DraftKings. I'm like, I'm going to bet on esports, but I don't think you can do that either. But I mean, missing the Final Four, that's going to snap back.
Yeah, here's what I'll say, Joe. We all use sports as a way to celebrate, the way to get excited, the way to come together. Nobody throws a parade when Apple or Google will have the most amazing quarter they've ever had. But when a team wins a championship, they throw a parade. And so hopefully we'll have the Olympics, and we'll be able to come together as a country around our team, the U.S. Olympics team, and that'll be great for us. We'll all get out of the house. We'll all celebrate together. Hopefully when the NBA, the NHL, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, football all start to really happen again, we'll all get excited about our teams, and as communities we'll come together. Sports will be a vital mechanism for bringing people back together when this happens. And so, I'm excited for that, but in reality, basketball is the last thing on my mind right now. But I will say we're using the Mavericks to try to do as much as we can to keep people energized and engaged while everybody's stuck at home.
Hey, Mark, we're going to try to bring Becky in if we can.
Sure. Hey, Becky.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark, it's good to talk to you. I saw your reaction. I think we all did. The cameras were on you when you were on the sidelines of the game to find out that the NBA was shutting things down. Your reaction, I think, at that point was something like, "Are you kidding me?" or something along those lines, maybe.
Yeah,
you changed your tune really quickly. What to kind of walk us through your emotional, the hill you kind of climbed and fell back off of the other side?
Yeah, I mean, we had considered all the potential options, the Mavs management, and really what really ignited my response was prior to the game, I met with the players, and one of the players said, "What are the chances the season gets suspended or postponed?" And I said 5-10% at most. And, I'd considered it, but I really didn't consider it likely based on the information we had at that time. And then when it came across that Rudy Gobert had been sick and the one game had been canceled and the season had been canceled, I was just stunned. And, then my mind started thinking, the entrepreneur in me took over. Okay, what are the elements that I need to consider going forward? What are my responsibilities? Who's going to be helped? What are the opportunities and who's going to get hurt? And this was so drastic and so outside the realm of anything I really considered likely that's when I started thinking about, okay, who's going to get hurt the most and what can I do and how can we make sure that everybody lands on their feet? Because, let me just say this, when you're really blessed like I am, the value of one marginal dollar becomes minimal. And so I've gotten to the point in my life where it's not just about how much more money I can make, but what other types of impact can I have? And so that literally was one of the first things that crossed my mind. What can I do to try to help people and try to make it better? And starting with the Mavs employees, arena employees, that was my focus. And so, so when I did that interview, that's what I was thinking about. And then obviously my family and my mom, who's 82, and other people, like what happens next? Because it was complete uncertainty then.
Hey, Mark.
Mark, thank you. I think we got to watch your reaction, and it kind of represents the arc that a lot of us have gone through.
For the rest of time. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Andrew?
No, I was just going to ask Mark a final question. You invest in the markets.
Yes.
What are you thinking? What would you do?
I've been putting in, 1.5% to work on every down day, buying mostly SPYs and dipping my toes. I bought a little Live Nation. I actually sold some puts and sold some calls on some things I had because just the premiums are just incredible. I mean, it's stunning, the premiums that are in place right now. But it looks like we're starting to get into a trading range, up 5%, down 5%, up 5%, down 5%. And I'm not quite sure why. And I'm not quite sure if the quants have kicked back in yet and feel like they have good data to start making a lot of trades. And so, it felt like for a while we had active management doing all the work and try to figure things out. And now over the last 3 days, it feels like we're starting to get more algorithmic trading coming into the market. And now today, based off of the, being up yesterday and being down about the same today, it looks like we may be starting to fall into a range. So, I'll act accordingly, but it's just every day. This is just like how much information can you acquire and what new is coming along and how does that change things? So I'm like everybody else.
Okay.
I'll dip my toe in the water hoping that 2 years from now, this will all be a nightmare that we put behind us and the market will be much higher.
Let's hope you're right. Mark Cuban, thank you so very much, and please stay safe and healthy.
And thanks for keeping on working. I mean, it's good. It gives us all a sense of normalcy when we're stuck at home and we get to turn Squawk Box on and CNBC all day long, for that matter. Makes us feel a little better.
Thank you, Mark, so very, very much.